Welcome everyone to InMobi's 2022 APAC Gaming Summit. My name is Srishna and I head integrated marketing for APAC at InMobi, and I'm thrilled to welcome you all. Today, we have two blockbuster sessions lined up for you as we deep dive into the world of gaming with India's leading streamers, developers, advertisers, and of course you, our fantastic audience. But before we get started, let me share some house rules. In case you have any questions during our two sessions, please drop them in the chat window and we'd be happy to take them. If you have a friend who you think would like to join the session, don't worry, it's not too late for them to join. We're dropping a link for them. And in case you experience any other technical difficulties during the session, do drop those in the Q&A window as well and we'll try our best to help you out. With that, let's get started. Over to you, Yash. I hope you have your game face on.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the first InMobi Glance APAC Gaming Summit. I am Yashashvi Takalapalli. I'm the head of gaming at Glance. And I'm very, very happy and excited to be here to talk about the topic that is there in front of us. Everybody's gaming around us. Don't you all agree? If you have kids, your kids are always asking you for games. Your neighborhood kids are playing games while in the lift. Your taxi auto drivers are playing games while they're waiting for you to come. Your spouse or colleagues or partners are playing games in between breaks. Heck, even Bollywood and cricket stars are playing games nowadays. And me personally, I have seen my 80-year-old grandmom play games. I think the game is Candy Crush. It's phenomenal, right? Gaming is everywhere. Gaming is ubiquitous, especially on mobile gaming. At 450 million mobile gamers in India, India is the second largest market in terms of users, and I'm one of the top 5 gaming markets in India in size overall in the world. You would think this is it? No, it is only growing. There's a joke in the VC circles, investing circles, that every investment pitch starts with 1.4 billion people. So I'm also going to tell you the story of 1.4 billion people, but really, number of internet users in India will grow at 60. It's at 60% today. It's going to grow to 80-90% in the coming years. Number of online gamers will grow. It's at 50%. Developed markets, and we at Glance also believe that everybody is a gamer, and we expect this number to grow to 70-80%. So yes, there is a lot of growth in India, which is why the government is also doing a lot of things for this. There is call to make India a global gaming hub, and there is a hope that India will become a very big gaming market. And with that context, let's delve into the topic of today: scoring big with mobile gaming in India. I have a very exciting and eclectic set of panelists here. I would like each of them to introduce themselves, starting with Sheetal, who is one of our biggest game partners with Glance. Sheetal Bairamgi. Sorry, Sheetal, I thought my name was complicated. Your surname is also
No
fairly
worries.
complicated.
No
So please
worries.
go on, introduce yourself.
Hi, Yash. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. And as Yash mentioned, we've been working with Glance for the last 3-4 months here, and we've been having a pretty good time and exciting time going through the journey with them of growth in mobile space. Coming to myself, I run a gaming studio here called APAC Games in Sydney, Australia. Originally in India, an Indian myself. And we are the studio behind the hit game Phone Case DIY, which was published by Crazy Labs in 2020, and which later on, just last week, went on and became one of the biggest game in the mobile gaming space, which completed 200 million downloads, which is a huge achievement for a gaming studio. So yeah, and I've been in mobile advertising space for the last 15 years. I've been the advertising space and started the journey there. I understand the ad tech, ad serving, monetization, advertising, user acquisition, and so on. And bored with that, I thought, okay, what would happen before it comes to the marketing team? I wanted to see that kind of journey to complete my 360-degree angle for the overall ecosystem, and I started my own gaming studio in 2019. People joke around saying I kind of knew that the pandemic was happening and people will play games during the pandemic. But that's jokes apart. It was my intention to see what happens before the game comes to the market. And now I started my own studio to see the development side of the games, and later on wanted to promote the game as a studio so that it completes my understanding of the whole mobile ecosystem. So that is the story of Crikey Games.
Thanks, Sheetal. Super exciting to see more Indians in the game development space. Next, I would like to introduce Sukamal Pegu, who is a lead game publishing for Riot Games in India. Not only India, sorry, Riot Games across India, Southeast Asia. Riot is the super popular creator of League of Legends, and for some of the Indians, Valorant, which is I guess the most popular game in India right now. Sukamal?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Nikhil will agree. So over to you, Sukamal. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks, Yash, and hello to everybody who's tuning in, and also to the panelists, Sheetal and Trace. I mean, lovely seeing you guys, and wonderful hearing your stories backstage as well. And now, of course, we will get to share some of our own insights and our journey so far. So, personally, I have always been a gamer. Throughout my development years, teenage years, as well as when I was in college, so much that I overstayed 1.5 years in college so that I could play more games. Of course, that is what the reasoning when I look back, right? So that was for other reasons because of my academics, but mostly I'd say I was training to be a gamer. I was just waiting for the industry to open up. So that's what I usually position it, but mostly it's for my academics. But moving on, so immediately I knew that that was my calling for from a career perspective as well. This is one place that I really wanted to really explore. I love the fact that we are with games, you can do so much, right? You can tell immersive stories, create communities, you can engage with people who comes from so many diverse backgrounds. But when we are playing games, we are united by our experience, right? So this is what motivated me to really look at this industry very seriously. Work for game publishing very initially, and then move on to mobile. And one of the first mobile companies that I worked with was of course InMobi. So that is something which I really wear that badge with a lot of pride. The fact that we were able to with InMobi open up the mobile space for not just publishers for apps, but also for the game studios who were looking to really explore gaming as a way for on mobile, a medium for telling stories and creating experiences on mobile. And since then, after I moved on to Riot Games, and we have had a very interesting journey. So my responsibility was very clear, right? So from day one, I knew that I would be focusing on the India market, and one of the key mission or objectives that I wanted to achieve in this market was to bring opportunities and experiences which I personally could never have experienced because no big publisher was focusing for the region, both across mobile as well as PC. And well, we have experienced success as on our PC platform, but we are a portfolio company and we have very big plans on mobile, and we definitely are looking to working with publishers, platform owners and partners like clients. And I can't be more excited to be on this panel and share some of my insights, learnings, and hopefully learn some from my panelists as well. Thank you so much, Yash.
Okay, and the third person is a very different person, different background, I must say. We have Nikhil Upadhyay, Trace Mag. Nikhil is on Glance.
Yes.
Not only one of the largest streamers in terms of audience, but he's the one who gets the highest engagement rate. So that is something that is very interesting. Would love to know more about it. So Nikhil, over to you.
So hello everyone, my name is Nikhil Upadhyay. I am also known as Trace Mag in the gaming space. I have started my journey as a casual gamer. Then it turned into professional gaming. I have been in this industry for 8 years and I have played professional for 5 years. And afterwards I started streaming. Then after streaming for some times and getting recognition, I associated with organizations and brands, and now I'm partnered with clients and working with them to enhance the content on the platform. So that's how I'm here.
Nikhil, what is the story behind the name Trace Mag?
So basically, I was a CS 1.6 professional player, and my name was Trace, and I was the opper of the team. So the opper is used to be the magger. So there was a gun called sniper rifle, Magnum sniper rifle. So I was the magger for my team. So that's why people started calling me Mag, come here, Mag, go there. So I just joined two names together, Trace Mag, and then it went like for 10 to 12 years, it's the same.
So there has been some phenomenal evolution of gaming, right? From console to mobile, so on and so forth. What are some of the trends you guys are seeing? And maybe Sukamal, I will like you to go first, having seen the market over many years.
Thank you so much, Yash. And like really pertinent, right? So when you said like how something like a nuclear scientist can also find joy in creating simple simulation, which, well, I mean, like the early form of gaming, but it still derived pleasure from designing something so rudimentary, but at the same time so basic and so beautiful, right? So yeah, I mean, like growing up in the 80s, yes, I'm an 80s kid, and I have seen the entire transition, like you said, right from the days when we were engaging in physical sports and physical games to, let's say, our first introduction to 8-bit consoles, to early versions of the PC gaming scene, plus when we experienced multiplayer online with CSGO, CS 1.6, and finally, like the console gaming boom, which definitely led to what we see now is the mobile gaming and the creator economy that has been created around it, right? So for me, the biggest change that I have seen, especially with mobile gaming and the creator space, is how democratic it has become, right? It has become very inclusive and democratic. Earlier, the four stages that I've just mentioned, right, from the days of the 8-bit console, right? It was very niche. I mean, like it was catered to people who had access to, let's say, to the platforms, or even had the resources to go ahead and enjoy those experiences, right? Let's say 90% of humanity were left behind by those experiences, which for me, I mean, like, was was a life-changing moment for me when I finally saw Steve Jobs like in a presentation with the mobile and the experience. And I knew it from the deep down that this is where the world is going to move towards. And we have read enough science fiction to know that technology becomes democratic once it has achieved a certain point in life where it becomes, it becomes indispensable in your daily life. And that's what Steve Jobs was able to deliver that impact, right? And from that day, I mean, especially with gaming, I can see how much inclusive and how much democratic it has become. And it has involved everyone. Like you said, you can take any category, and that category is playing games, be it your house helps, be it your, let's say, personal trainer, be it kids, be it like athletes, I would say, or even entertainment stalwarts who are movie stars or singers. So everybody's playing games or interacting with gaming in some form or the other. And that for me is the biggest thing that I have witnessed. I was lucky enough to be born in the 80s where I saw the entire shift happen. And I couldn't be more happy to be in this space at this point of time and seeing this amount of democratic experiences that has been created by mobile gaming. And I can't wait to see where we are going next. Hopefully, I mean, like Trey said, that the metaverse is where we're going to be interacting next, and I can't wait to see that happen as well.
Sheetal, what are some of the things that you are seeing?
Well, I think it's definitely, I'm just gonna, say what Sukamal just said, it's the accessibility of mobile for, wide range of users. You don't need, huge cost. It's a very low cost device, a mobile, where you can pretty much take the mobile and play. You don't need internet for some of the games to actually play. And I think that is the beauty of the mobile. And, definitely console is like, you need high-end devices, you need all those things to actually play the game. But here on mobile, anybody can play, and I'm very excited to see but games like Roblox, more Roblox kind of games where you're seeing a metaverse and people interacting more, people and I think that is going to be the future of mobile gaming next, where people can interact and be in a metaverse where you can actually see things and interact with people. And that's not possible of such on console.
So you're basically saying a much more interactive gaming experience.
Yeah, cheaper.
Cheaper. Yeah. Yes, I think 5G will definitely play a big
part.
Yes. Yes.
Trace, over to you.
So for me, the gaming space has evolved drastically in the past decade. I remember the time when I started playing casually. I have never thought that I can make a career out of it. And if I look at now, there are so many organization brands who are actively or passively participating in this genre and helping the streamers, the content creators, and the participants in this industry grow, earn. So that really creates opportunities for every gamer, every entertainer for the country, for all over the country. So I would say that.
Actually, very, very good point, Trace. You're basically saying gaming has become entertainment.
Yeah,
It's a
actually, I
Sheetal,
think it's a
Sheetal
subgenre of the entertainment industry because it's actually included in it.
Correct.
For some, it's a source of entertainment. For people like us, we game for like 10 hours, 12 hours a day. We play Valorant for 8 to 9 hours. So it's really personal for us.
No, I think that leads to my next question, and something that some of our audience, and there are a lot of advertisers, brand and marketing folks in our audience. So for mobile gaming, and that we all want it to be the primary source of entertainment. We believe this is big. What are some of the insights that you guys are observing that makes this exciting for the marketers out there?
All right. Maybe I'll just give a little perspective. Because we are seeing the first stages of how let's say marketing via mobile games or gaming as a genre is evolving, right? So one thing that I think we have seen, I think we will all agree as advertisers as well as platform owners, is that plain vanilla ways of marketing strategy won't work for this audience, right? This audience is very developed and very evolved, right? So it's not as simple as hey, this is a TVC that I've run, which has delivered me a lot of ROI. So I'm going to just paste it in a mobile game and I expect the same kind of ROI. That is not going to happen, right? So the audience that you are trying to talk to are very engaged with what they are experiencing, right? And when you bring to them something which is not at all related to their experience, it just puts them off. So what you thought that you might be able to get away by not being innovative will just bite you back in your rear, right? So this is the first thing that I definitely would on the marketing people, geniuses who are watching this, to understand that think of this as a segment of audience who's very different from anybody who's on other doing other things on mobile, right? It's not the same as being on Instagram, or maybe not as same as being on Snapchat or any other platforms, right? This is an audience who knows what they want, and their BS radar is very high, right? So you cannot just give them something and hope that they buy into your message, right? So this is why they should really, really look at the product they are going to advertise on, as well as the audience they are targeting. Have a channel strategy for them, right? Have a creative and channel strategy that works for this audience and really integrates well into the product that you are going to partner with, right? And this is the only way that you can create, let's say, an experience that not just seamlessly works with the product, but also works well for your audience. And trust me, I mean, this audience is very loyal, right? Once it has, let's say, once you have a loyal base from this audience, it does not go away. They will grow with you, right? And this is what we have seen with our own products, right? So we have for one of our games, for the esport part of our games, we partner with brands like Mercedes, MasterCard, and Louis Vuitton. They are not endemic brands for gaming, but they still worked with us because we were able to talk to them and figure out what is the best way for us to create those authentic experiences, which are not your plain vanilla marketing, but things which are integrated into our product or our experiences, and talk to the users, right? And so this is my take on whoever wants to work with this audience segment or the platform, that work with us, right? Don't try to think of it as one more platform or a product that is on the mobile, but think of it as a set of users who are so going to be engaged with whatever you are delivering. And if you win this audience, they're going to be staying loyal to your brand and to your service or product for a long time to come. So this would be my take on a little bit of advertising from my experience, both on the advertising side as well as on the client side.
Right. Great. From my experience, who are the people who are listening from the brands and the advertising space, I would like to, mention that it's all about testing new sources, new games. You never know where your audience is, and especially, without that data, without that analysis, you can never actually say, okay, this doesn't work, or I don't want to spend my dollars because it's game. It doesn't work like that. Half of the audience is on your gaming. Like if they, yes, they are on Facebook, but half of the other, like the rest of the hours, they're actually on a TikTok or on a game on TikTok. So I guess it's about the transparency. And from the gaming, from the advertising world, also there is a need that it has to be changed, is the transparency. Which app is delivering what number of what is the ROI per app, and that data needs to be shared with the brand so that they know exactly what the audience is behaving as. Okay, your audience is 70% female. Maybe you didn't know. Maybe you knew about it or you didn't know about it. But I think that transparency of which game it was working and what kind of behavior it was, right? It's a funnel, not just impressions. You were talking about the funnel stats. What kind of actions did they take? Did they buy something? And I think that kind of transparency needs to be coming from the supply partners as well. From if we're taking Glance as an example, and I think giving back that information to brands builds that confidence, saying yes, we have the right audience. Yes, gaming is a space that we can explore, and I think it's about giving it's back and forth of that information needs to happen more, is what I think.
Can I add a point in Sukhmat?
Yes, sure, Nikhil, sorry.
So basically, as brands perspective, I think we should also look at the quality of the viewers. So for example, someone is getting like 1,000 audience engagement. So we should check the quality, the demographics and the age graphics as well, so that we can place the product well. Because after seeing the age graphics and demographics, we can clearly analyze that the product which we are going to place is getting used by them, or it is just going for some of the targeted area of the audience. So that would help the brand to get the proper targeting audience and analysis.
So I think this brings the next part of our topic, India, and how is the mobile gaming market evolving in India. I would like to hear from some of the panelists and some of the trends that they are seeing and observing in India. So Nikhil, do you want to go first?
So actually, I don't know about the future of mobile gaming, but I can say it is going in a safe direction. More numbers of games are getting published, more number of genres are getting acknowledged and appreciated by the gamers. Gamers are pre-downloading the games, gamers are pre-purchasing the games, and gamers and viewers are showing interest in different type of genres in the gaming section now. For example, 5 years down the line, I was very interested in games like survival games. And at that time, the viewership of that games was like zero. No one was getting interested in these games. And now people are getting interested. It is getting introduced on various devices. And that's why people are getting to know that there are these games in the mobile app stores that we can play to survival games in the mobile app stores that we can play and have fun while watching it as well.
That's nice. You made a very interesting point. People are actually paying up for games.
Yeah.
Something that was not there before. Sheetal, over to you. What are some of the trends you're seeing from an Indian perspective?
I'll start with your investor pitch. 1.3 billion population. But well, on that point, I guess the population can be an advantage as well, and I think that's what I have seen from my experience in India. When we started, developing games and, with our games as well, we always focus on the tier 1 countries, US, UK, Australia, Canada. That is what we were focusing on because, higher return on investment, scale, iPhone versus Android, all different sorts of things. But, we never looked, India as a market when we started, because we were just focused on the tier 1 countries. And as we evolved, as we started digging deep into tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and we always have the test budgets for testing new countries. And the population, the 1.3 billion population itself, is a huge plus point, because yes, the eCPMs are low when on the monetization side, but the advertising cost is also low. So all you need to do is just make sure the playtime is good, the retention is good, you do have an ROI. And at the end of the day, for any gaming company or any game developer, all it comes down to is average return per user. That is the number that we all look at. And I think whether it's India, whether it's UK, whether it's US, it just doesn't matter. So if we can take advantage of that population, because it's at scale, and the organic is massive. When you do marketing, the organic uptick on in India is massive. And I think these are like the hidden secrets in the market, like people don't focus. And I think that needs to be more explored, more tested. And I think people need to be aware that yes, there is a market. Yes, the CPMs are low, but the cost is also low. And how do you make your game much better, right? Have a social media aspect in the game. That's something that the Indians are like, or make a new build just for the market for India. And I think these are the things that you need to test. And I guess that is where we also missed the boat in the beginning. But after some testing and so on, we included India as a market into the gaming, and it's a massive market. It's an untapped market, and a lot of let's let the data do the talking. And I think that's what it comes down to. That's my experience for the Indian market.
No, well said, actually, Sheetal. I think in the worry of ECPMs, a lot of people forget that this is a great market in terms of organics. This is the population will also give another advantage, right? And this is something Glance as a gaming platform believes, that there is a gamer for every kind of a game. And in a country like India, you can find a large audience for any game. And that is that's something that we don't realize and don't appreciate enough. But yeah, Sukamal, do you have any thoughts around this topic?
Yeah, absolutely. Like
around the
Sheetal
evolution
said,
of mobile gaming?
Absolutely. I mean, like, so I'll just give a small example. I mean, like, which we have all experienced. I mean, like, I've experienced it personally with our own game, which is Valorant as of now, right? So like Sheetal said, right? So one thing that we constantly need to remind ourselves that this is a market that is huge, right? I'll not say 1.4 billion because, yeah, I mean, like, the reality is that it might be not 1.4 billion, but even the smallest segment of users for any platform is bigger than most countries in the world, right? So let's take, for example, like PC gaming. PC gaming, like, you can say out of 1.4 billion people, you just have 30 million PC gamers. Do you know, like, it might seem like a small number compared to 1.4 billion, but 30 million is more than the population of a lot of countries in Europe, right? So this is something which I personally used as one of the starting points for the conversation of why Valorant will be successful in India, despite us not being a PC region, right? Simply for the fact that even the smallest segment of user can run into millions. And this is what we have seen, right? So we have seen tremendous growth, both in terms of volume as well as value, right? So yes, early is when you start out, Indian consumers and what you call gamers are a little like, they are slow to spend. We are like, we are an elephant, right? We are like the Indian elephant, right? We are very slow to start, but once we get starting, when we start running, it's also impossible to stop us, right? So it's not impossible. Let's say it's extremely difficult for us to stop that elephant, right? And that's the same thing that we have noticed with Valorant as well, where we see that, like, the value that we can unlock from a player from a revenue perspective will take time, or it takes time. But once that value is unlocked, it is, let's say, Indians are very smart about where they want to invest. Once they start investing, they don't really stop from, let's say, understanding what the value that they are getting out of it. And that's the reason why, like Sheetal said, we just have to be patient, look at the numbers, keep on working on those core basics. And that's when this market will start rewarding, both in terms of volume as well as in value, right? So this was a small example, and I think the same thing can be translated even for mobile games as well. And as far as I see how that is going, what are the enablers that are going to drive towards that growth, right? So like Trey said, right, the genres are expanding and niche ones are getting more used, right? Earlier, we were looking at what's trending in the West, and we were like, let's say, playing those games, but now we are looking for some experiences which might be there, but might be also coming from our local, what you call, experiences. Ludo, for example, right? Even like, earlier when games like Teen Patti were popular, they were born out of like a local experience and a local need. And that's something which also is the potential for us to look at genres that might, which are not just expanding, but also can come from our local experiences. we can definitely expect that the communities and around gaming are going to keep on expanding, which also is extremely important from an advertiser's perspective, because they see that, hey, now communities are being formed, so it's easy for me to address this audience and create value together with the product for my brand as well as my service. So that's something which we will keep on seeing. Kudos to Glance for leading that, and I hope that you guys continue delivering that kind of value for both our supply side as well as the demand side. And lastly, from Trey's perspective, I think the creator economy will just continue to grow, and with let's say with the democratization of creating platforms, I think we will get to see a lot more local creators coming up and creating content that is meaningful for their audiences. And that is something which I'm super excited. We have already seen, now we are on our second generation of creators on the internet. We have seen the big ones. Now we are seeing like a slightly more niche, but definitely more, let's say, successful on the same metrics. And I can't wait for the third wave of creators who are going to really own this space and really create some interesting stories for us to listen to experience, and also to get entertained, right? So these are the three things that I believe will lead to us into the next step for mobile gaming in India.
I must say, even though gaming is a very, very global phenomena, I think some of the most popular games on Glance Gaming are some of the games with local context, be it Ludo or be it Chota Bean Games and all of it. And then maybe there's an insight over there. Instead of creating another AAA multi-party shooting games, we should create a shooting game in an Indian context. I know of like a bunch of people who are trying this problem. I'm super excited that I'm hoping that some of them actually crack this, and we have our own version of a mobile first shooting game in an Indian context with Indian story. Okay, that leads to my next question. And so look, for the developers out there, we know that the opportunity is big. There's a nice market out here. But what are some of the challenges that indie game developers are facing in the Indian market? How can they overcome this? Thoughts from this, Shidal?
From my perspective, the challenges definitely are in the market of education and finding talent, because the whole gaming space itself is is very rare to find talent. It's the people. They don't have degrees or education in the universities there. Like we have an academy for gaming here. I think there's one in Hyderabad, but I think we need to do more of that, the education of gaming, the principles of game design and the development, all the developers that I interview, I constantly look at them. They have learned from YouTube, or they have gone to this 6-month course and now think that they are game developers. And I think that there needs to be done more on the education side from the government and from the people. And I think more, and that is definitely a challenge on side. And the other side is the education. People think even here, people think if you're playing a game, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like you should be studying, or you should be doing something creative. You should play sports, but you shouldn't be playing games. I see it as a problem, because in games you never know. You can see Trace, and maybe he can chip in as well. But there is a career there. There are YouTubers who are making millions of dollars promoting games and doing YouTube videos. And not only just on the gaming side, generally, right? You can be in the editing space, and you can be in the creative space. You can do. There's so much in the gaming. You can be blog writing about games. And there is so much space. And I think people do kind of ignore that fact that gaming can be a career as well when you grow up. And I think that is definitely a challenge on side. And the other side is the education. People think even here, people think if you're playing a game, you shouldn't be doing that. It's like you should be studying, or you should be doing something creative. You should play sports, but you shouldn't be playing games. I see it as a problem, because in games you never know. You can see Trace, and maybe he can chip in as well. But there is a career there. There are YouTubers who are making millions of dollars promoting games and doing YouTube videos. And not only on the gaming side, generally, right? You can be in the editing space, and you can be in the creative space. You can do, there's so much in the gaming. You can be you can be blog writing about games, and there is so much space. And I think people do kind of ignore that fact that gaming can be a career as well when you grow up. And I think that is definitely a challenge. And I think people need to encourage, and sometimes the talent comes up from those games. They kind of like the creativity can come up, or sometimes they have more focus or concentration built up using those because they kind of play those games. And also they can be, if there is a social media, or they can actually be friends with people who have similar interests. And I think these part of the education is missing, I guess, and more of these trade shows, more of these webinars, more of this training, education is something that I would see more of.
Fair. So, Kamal, thoughts from you?
Absolutely. I mean, like, I think Sheetal mentioned something which is so true. Okay, so in terms of talent, right? So let's break it down from let's take it, separate it into two parts. One is, let's say, game development. The other one is game publishing, or maybe the business of games, right? So if you look at it, my generation, when we were growing up in India, so forget about game development. I mean, there was nobody who could even say, hey, we're going to look at the business side of it. I'm going to work with a publisher, and we're going to release games in India. We're going to build communities from the marketing perspective, right? So where was the talent coming from? It's only over, let's say, 6 years of working in different companies, etc. The first set of talent that came up for game publishing were people who were gamers themselves, and probably had a little bit of experience doing something else, but they were the first set of people that were picked up by big game publishers for their operations and marketing in India, right? And that is where I would put myself as the category as well. And the next set of talent that is opening up from a game publishing perspective, and I'm sure it's going to be true for development perspective as well, which is following one step behind publishing, are the people who have been gaming for the last 8 to 10 years. They are the next set of people who are getting into content creation, like Trace himself. He has built a career out of something he likes to do, but he's not working in development, but he is working in publishing, which is marketing part of it, right? And that is where the talent has come from. And Sheetal, you are very correct. The next set of game talent, which is more in tune with what the requirement is, rather than just a skill set of programming, will come from a set of people who are playing games right now on mobile. And in the next 2 to 3 years, or maybe in the next 5 years, they are going to join the economy, right? And this is where their experience of playing games will help them fine-tune themselves as development professionals, people who understand game design, people who understand how to bring creativity into storytelling, people who are able to create immersive environments, worlds, right? And this is where I think it definitely helps for us to be proactive and keep an eye out and educate people about gaming as an industry. And this is where I believe, we are already seeing this from a game publishing perspective and marketing perspective, where we have seen people who have been playing games are now joining the industry and are doing a fantastic job, which is equivalent to anybody else in the world. And that's the reason why we have such success stories as Trace. And similarly for game development, yes, right now we are lacking, because people who are programming games are probably the first set of gamers who did not have enough experience playing games growing up. But the next set of development professionals that you will be hiring are people who have played games, who have grown up playing games, and they'll be the first ones to amaze you with their ideas and with their creativity, right? So this is the first part. And the second thing is in terms of the Indian economy and the market perspective, I think what Trace said also makes a lot of sense. We're saying that more genres are opening up, and right now we might be engaging in playing games which are popular globally. But as these genres are opening up and local experiences are more meaningful, we will get to see that segment open up for indie developers, because game development is expensive, right? And if you try to create something or compete with the big AAA titles, or maybe the big publishers from outside with the same genres, you will probably not see success. So I would say that that if indie developers can pick up genres which are more close to home and build around social experiences, I think they will have a much better success rate, and also like look at different audience segment rather than catering to the core or the casual, right? For example, Sheetal, your success story is very inspiring, where you said, okay, let me look at my experience around my own life and see what can I build for this set of engaged customers that I know is there. They're just not finding the right game for themselves. For example, K-12 students, right? So they have particular requirements, which in terms of which will help them develop and learn. Is that a category for games, indie developers? Yes. How about like girl gamers who are joining the whole economy and the gaming space for the first time? Let's build some experiences for them. Yes, that can be also something which we need to probably educate indie gamers, saying that might be also potential for you, rather than run after the next battle royale or the car racing game, which is lucrative, but it is very hard to deliver a hit. So I think these are the 3-4 takeaways from my perspective of how indie game developers should reevaluate, especially from India perspective. And when it comes to challenges, when it comes to taking those games globally, like I said, key fundamentals, right? If you get your fundamentals right and you are achieving those success in India, I think it's pretty easy to get the same success globally as well. Those are my 5 minutes long 2 bits.
On the other hand, we have a very, very popular and fast growing segment in streaming in India. I think at last count, about 10,000 plus streamers are there. I would love to hear from Trace what he thinks that as an online content creator in the game streaming, how do you differentiate here in such a crowded space?
So I would like to correct you. It's not in thousand. I think it's in lakhs. If you want to stand out among the creators, we need to start experimenting the content. For example, we should start playing different types of games on regular basis. We should be doing something aside of gaming as well on the entertainment space. And one more point I would like to say is that the best thing we can do for the growth as an influencer is by following the trend and adapting it quickly. For example, there is a game which is creating hype in the market, so we can do that. We can adapt the game at the starting point of that game, and we can just play with the viewers. We can educate them about the game, and we can just go through with them.
From a publisher point of view, so Kamal, what do you think about it? What are some of the things that will excite you about creators and innovations that you would like to see?
Fantastic. So I think Trey's summed it up very correctly, right? So the only thing that I think he's forgotten that the creators also need to start praying, right, for luck. But yeah, he said it very correctly. You have to look at what is happening around you. You have to be aware of it, right? And also you have to focus on yourself. I think focusing on yourself is one thing that I personally give a lot of advice. Because I have built my 500 Twitter, followers based on my personality, right? So I have all the rights to give an advice to people who have millions of subscribers how to develop themselves. I'm just kidding, right? But yeah, one key factor in why when creators look at their channel and what should be their channel strategy, one key thing that they should definitely keep time aside for is focus on yourself. And look at your own personality, right? What is the personality that I want to project to people who are coming to watch me? Because at the end of the day, people are going to come spend 5 minutes of their lives to give this particular personality a try. And why should I hang out with you, right? I mean, look at your own real life, right? Do you have friends who come and hang out with you for hours, or people avoid taking your calls, or people believe that you are obnoxious, or people you are not responsive, or you're not fun to hang out with, right? So I think this is a key way for you to figure out if people in real life cannot stand 5 minutes with me, why should somebody come and spend 5 minutes on my stream? Doesn't matter. I might be playing the most trending games. I might be giving away lots of goodies on my channel for people. Yeah, they will come for that. But if you want to build, let's say, a follower or somebody who likes to really enjoy your content, you have to focus on that part. And definitely that will help you unlock or make yourself why should somebody come and spend the next 1 year every time you drop a video or a stream, they should come and hang out with you. So think of it this way, that your followers are people who are hanging out with you, want to say hello to you, discuss something with you, and probably sometimes even give you advice on your life, or maybe take some life advice from you as well, right? So all these things are extremely important for upcoming creators to focus on developing themselves and becoming that person that they would like to hang out with online, right? And definitely, and that is on things that they can control, things which they cannot control, which is the luck part. Of course, you have to be sometimes a little lucky to get noticed for something which you probably did not intend to. And of course, for that, you need to really build relationships, right? You need to build relationships with platforms like Glance, figure out what is the best way for me to present my content. How do I present myself? What are the things, tools that are available for me as a creator on this particular platform to reach out to my community? How do I engage with them? How do I create this relationship with them, right? And I think that is something which I'm sure it is there from platform, platforms themselves, but it is for the creators to take advantage and to do research to find out what is the best way for me to engage on that platform, right? So, like I said, my 500 Twitter followers, I have built that with my own advice. So I definitely highly recommend to whoever is watching this and wants to have 500 followers on Twitter, please follow my advice.
No, I must say that was a brilliant insight. If I go back to Glance Gaming and I look at all the streaming that happens, people like Trace, who are very, very popular, are popular because they have a strong human element. They really connect with them and they are very original, authentic self. So I think that's where the learning is there, that to grow, you need that. And I think that's the same learning that will go to advertisers. If you want to advertise here, go for streamers who are really connecting and not just shouting and jumping around. So I think that's very interesting. On this note, I always wondered, in India, most of the streaming happens across shooting games. Worldwide, worldwide it's much more wider. You have the likes of Dota, League of Legends, and all of it. I think the question I had, I think Sheetal, especially for you, is what will it take streaming to go beyond some of this, AAA hardcore games to, let's say, casual or midcore as a category? Is it possible in the first place?
Definitely the streaming can happen in, casual games. It's all about testing and, new studios trying to innovate the process of user acquisition. And I think that is where, I think recently we saw at the Indian Game Developer Conference, there was a cricket game which was streamed, and, because that was the launch of the game as well. And I know they are actually at the Sunrise event, which is a music concert festival coming up in Goa and Hyderabad and multiple cities. I think it's a good way of, letting other avenues to just not rely on your traditional Facebook and Google ads for your user acquisition, but also, test. You never know until you test. And, the audience is right there. These are the people that you would, are clicking on your ads when it's on Facebook, and this is the same audience which is at the music concert. So your audience is there. As long as the audience is the right audience, I think the streaming is definitely can be explored in other markets, and I know it is coming. It's just I guess there are early players who want to test it and get it there, and I think the rest will follow.
This is actually a topic that's very close to our hearts at Glance. We are actually testing a tool by which we would like to democratize streaming for games and the full category of games. We believe that every game as a fun element, as a learning element, which is essentially what is transpiring in the kind of things that Trace does, and there's a story element to it. There's a hero element to in the player playing it, and I think there probably a little bit of technology. Technology can be the catalyst, and we hope what we are creating, and we hope to do that in the next 3-4 months, gets us to there where we can really take this streaming to all games beyond and create more powerful communities. I know Sukamal is not revealing much about Riot, but I can tell you in the streaming solution that we are building, we have both the democratizing the access part, make it easy for somebody to go live, and the point that you made about engaging with the streamer, and that's the power of that tool that we are building. Okay, over to something more quite interesting, I guess, for our audience. One of the questions that a lot of people are sitting with is, okay, gaming is entertainment, I understand, and I get engaged audience. But what is it about this audience when I have so many other channels out there? Why should I engage in this particular audience? thoughts on this? Maybe starting with Sukamal.
Yeah, fantastic question, right? So this is something which I think we have been asking ourselves for the last 15 years since the opening of this category for India, right? Right from the time of browser games to boxed games, events, and finally mobile gaming, right? So the core fundamental is still the same, right? So the hypothesis is still the same, that this is a very unique medium. We have to innovate, not just from, let's say, from the product perspective, but also from what you call this one, from the advertising perspective, right? Because at the end of the day, games are experiences, right? And I think what we want advertisers to think about is like, how can our players or gamers who are already engaging with something that we have provided also engage with your brand? You have the opportunity, right? Be it in terms of ad formats, be it in terms of, let's say, gamifying your ad itself, right? So there's so many things that you can do which seamlessly works with this medium of gaming, and at the same time creates a unique story for you to tell your audience, because a TV viewer will never engage with your story or your ad as much as a gamer who's going to actually interact with you. If you give that person an opportunity to engage with your brand and the story that you want to say in a gamified format, that is a great way for you to catch the attention and also educate the user about your brand, right? Which is not going to be possible in any other medium. I think this is the one thing that advertisers need to think, and how to make use of this particular medium the most effective way, right? Which I have been saying from day one over the last 15 years, that giving a plain vanilla ad is not going to work. You have to look at your segment, what you want to experience that you want to deliver, work with the product, think of the best way for that particular set of engaged users to engage with your story and brand. And I think you will be very happy with the ROI that you will get, right? So this is my 2 bits about how or why advertisers should look at mobile games. Always online. Simple click can lead you to a different world itself. Make that world interesting enough for me to go and click on it.
Absolutely. Sheetal, any thoughts?
From my perspective, definitely gaming is a cheaper alternative. If you can have the same eyeballs on Facebook at a higher eCPM, and gaming can get you the same eyeballs at a lower eCPM and the cost. And I think that aspect is definitely missing when a lot of advertisers decide on their budgets. Okay, it's always Facebook and Google, especially in the APAC market. It's all about Facebook and Google, because if you are on YouTube, you get the eyeballs. And I don't think that is true. And I think there needs to be gaming budget, because explore the games, find and get the transparency. Where is your audience? Find out. And also there needs to be a test budget from advertisers, because some of the games have very, very engaged users. These are the guys who are whales and have spent thousands of dollars in those games. And targeting those users could be really beneficial. On YouTube, on TikTok, you might actually get a user who is more inclined towards snackable content. They're just swiping, eyeballs go, they miss the ad, you're gone. But here you have a very engaged user on your mobile and has been sitting and playing this game for hours, looks at an ad and and you click on an ad and you get to that. And if they're watching a rewarded ad, that's a much more engaged user, because they've seen your complete 30-second ad. And I think this is, again, where I go back to, the market education. When you are pitching an advertiser, a brand, you have to pitch of how they're going to get an ROI on it and not eyeballs. And I think that pitch needs to be worked upon when Glance or any other publisher is looking for the branded advertiser, whether it's branded or performance-based advertisers. How are they going to get ROI? Why do they have to work with you and not spend on Facebook? Because Facebook has all the data, not anymore, I guess, but all the targeting available for you guys. And I think that's where I think we need to build systems. Pull up reports, automate reports, tell them how you're going to spend, give them transparency, what's needed, give them case studies, give them some information of how you're spending like at least 10 or 20% of their budget in testing something new. And I think a lot of advertisers want to see, what are you doing different? Why you and not Facebook? And I think if you can find that differentiation point I think we can definitely go into places, and not just gaming. It's true for any other market as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think you hit a nail on the head. And if I rephrase what you're saying, don't just look for the top of the funnel metrics. Look at the bottom of the funnel, and you will see them to be much more impactful than anywhere else,
Yes.
because our audience is
But
engaged.
the platform also needs to provide this information back to the advertiser, and I think that is very important. Not just the impression, it costed you this much, here's the bill, here's the invoice.
Correct. No, it is something we're seeing in Glance today also. Some of the most engaged audiences sit on gaming. Gaming audience on Glance spend about 12 minutes per day. We have about of our daily engaged user base, about 25-30% people are gaming, and almost we see almost 1 in 4 days people are gaming on Glance. So it is phenomenal. And you're right, the real engagement is coming. A lot of the engagement is coming on gaming for us at Glance also. That leads to my next question. What do you, and probably this is a plug for Glance, but yeah, how do you see the contribution of Glance to gaming and gaming growth in India? Sheetal, you have been a big partner for us, very deep partner, engaged on multiple different streams. I would love to hear from you first.
Yeah, definitely. I've seen, Badri and you guys working from Glance, even when there was no monetization, and it was a baby back then. And I can see that it's a perfect teenager right now. Growing at a very high growth stage. But what I've seen definitely is with Glance is how you have built the user acquisition, users to the platform first. And I think that is very important. Get the users engaged, get the people onto your platform first before you even think about monetization. Because I remember when I had initial call with Badri, very early stages of Glance platform. My usual question is, how are you monetizing? What is the business model? He said we had no monetization. We are only looking at user growth right now. And that actually shocked me. But if I look at it now, that's a perfect strategy. You get people onto the platform, get onto people getting engaged to the users. Every day they come onto the platform, they play games. And later on, bring in the monetization model, which will help the developers, because otherwise your games are not making money and you don't have a business model. And I think that stages of, get the users first, then have a monetization model, then, feed in the games from developers like us and, other partners, and having a long-term, plan for and it was not a short-term, do it now, test it, and we're done. And I think that strategy of Glance was definitely, I've seen it from stage 1 to where we are right now. And I think that was very interesting. And, kudos to the Glance team of, being patient, testing different things, players. And, and I can see still the processes that were broken 2 months ago are now fixed, and we don't have the problems now. And again, I've been, as I mentioned, I've been working with Glance right through this in terms of processes and what we feel, how we feel, where we can improve, and how we can grow this together. Because the more users to your Glance platform means more revenue to us, so it works both ways.
Lovely. Thank you for the kind words. Trace, how are you seeing Glance as a platform?
Actually, I would like to say that Glance has a major contribution in the growth of gaming seen in India. Glance has made streaming so accessible via lock screen. Like, I can only just pick up my phone and I can watch a stream, I can watch a highlight, and I can watch a 10-hour long video as well on the platform. So it is very easy. For an example, actually, one day I was seeing my mom watching something. So I just asked her, what are you watching? So she said, I was just swiping my phone and I saw a stream there and I was just so interested in it. I started watching it. So it's so easy and accessible for the users to come and watch streams, play games. There is a game center in Glance where you can play games. My mom likes the table tennis ping pong game. So that's how they are targeting the non-gamers as well to come in the gaming field and experience the game and help the gaming community grow.
Oh, that's thanks, Trace. It's people like you who have helped us to become one of the largest streaming platforms in the country. We have close to about 4-5 million people watching streams every day, and you are one of our popular streamers. We have about 20 million people watching on a monthly basis. And
That's
what we've realized is, with streaming especially, we have been able to take this as a concept to very a lot of new users. No, we have been able to break the barriers in terms of which kind of users are watching streams.
yeah,
We've been able to bring a lot of new to streaming users through Glance, and that is something we're very proud of. And the other example, right? You told us about your mom. We were just looking at some stats. We have more than 50% of our users who are gaming are female. This is
yeah,
compared to, I think this number lands about 30,
yeah.
35% for typically for other platforms in India. And that's something we're very proud of. More than 60% people come from tier two cities. So we've been really, I think while one aspect is the access has increased, we have been able to democratize this access to newer communities. And that's something we are very, very proud of. Sukamal, any thoughts? We missed you in this.
No, absolutely. I was just listening to the success stories, right? I think that is the best testimony for this question, right? So there is no, like I said, there's no hypothesis to it. This is a fact that has been reiterated by two of your, let's say, partners, right? On the streaming side, content creation side, and the other one side who's actually looking to grow their business with you, right? And both of them have achieved those objectives and with like astounding success, right? So first of all, congratulations to you and the entire Glance team for delivering India's one of India's most watched streaming platforms. And I think this is a great testimony and something which we are extremely not just proud of, but happy to to encourage and to work with, right? Because simply for the fact that while as a company or as a large companies, what would be their strategy for coming to India, right? Yes, YouTube, Twitch, etc., might definitely be part of the global strategy, but when it comes to local strategy, right, I think Glance becomes that key ingredient or that masala that we say, which enhances a dish from being a run of the mill to becoming a one with a distinct flavor, right? I think this is where two things that I think Glance does very well as compared to a lot of other platforms that we have seen personally, right? One is reducing the friction. The amount of friction it reduces. Just imagine now you're streaming available on your lock screen, delivered to you, curated, and without, sometimes you do not even know you want to watch something, which Glance already knows that you want to watch something. So I'm going to show it to you, which I'm assuming this piece of in the interview or this piece of this podcast is also going to go live on Glance, and it's going to show up on people who are interested in partnering with Glance, and they will get to listen to these amazing stories, right? That's the first thing, right? Second thing is ability to get them to see something which they are so interested in watching, discovering things which, like I said, they probably did not even know that they would like to watch. Trey's example, right, where he said my mom engages with a ping pong game. For him, he cannot even imagine that his mother would watch a ping pong video in his entire life of growing up, right? But now he sees his mother watch a ping pong game. That's discoverability, right? So you have solved for two things which are fundamental for any gaming publisher to look at you with a super serious lens, right? One is you've reduced friction in terms of getting access to the user who may or may not be a gamer, but definitely reduces that discoverability. And last is basically like you say all the time, democratizing the whole concept of creating content, right? If you like a game, if you like something, you can go live with it. And this is something that you have given the power back to the creator. And as Indians, right? So as a culturally, we like to showcase what we have created, right? From the things that we paint at home, or maybe if you just look at our good morning messages, right? We like to share them. And this is something which I think is a great enabler on Glance. And I believe these are the things which will definitely not be part of a very global outlook, but will be part of some very local outlook. And this is where Glance has the maximum chance of winning from a gaming publisher's perspective. And I'm super happy to to see this, and super happy to continue working with you guys as well.
Yeah, thank you. I must say this is a matter of very big pride, and it's also humbling because discovery is one of the core tenets of Glance and Glance Gaming, and organizing internet and making it easily accessible. And it's nice to hear that you guys are seeing some of these things, and you guys are actually promoting us in that respect. I would like to ask the other question, and this is, what would you like us to do more better at Glance from a gaming point of view?
So so should I say, or someone
Go
else?
for it.
So I was saying that from a creator perspective, we are getting a proper interface, or we can say ecosystem, where we are getting recognition virtually, and it is adding more value to our creation. But the main thing I would like to point out is that we should start focusing on the physical space as well. For example, there are multiple events going across India. So as Glance, we should have our own booth, we should have our own creators there engaging with the audience, and some physical interaction with the event and other things that are happening over here, some giveaways or something like that. We can, if we are able to do that, then no one can stop us from going here and there in the market.
Good.
Agreed, Nikhil. Agreed, Trace. Tournaments and going offline is very big as part of our strategy. Yes. Sheetal?
Yeah, from a developer perspective, what I would like to see is how do we. There's two things. One is definitely getting those brand advertisers on board, which increases the eCPMs and which increases the revenue per game. And that is definitely something that I know you guys have already been working on. But how do you create more pitch and pitch that to advertisers is something that definitely I would like to see more of. Two is the technology component, and I don't know how much of this is in works, or I'm just thinking that if I would be at your position today, this is what I would be looking at. And because there will be hundreds of games in the game center, how do you decide which user is interested in which game? I'm sure, is there an AI, a machine learning going on in the back end, which actually shows, okay, this game has played a soccer game, so show them more, sports kind of games. So this player, not taking the privacy issues, but learning from which previous game they have played, or much more engaged user. So kind of, creating audiences and bucket, which in turn will become your pitch to the advertisers as well. Because you can say, I have, certain number of audience, 100 million users playing this and this game, and they fall into this. Here's your brand and why it suits you. And I think that, that automation of game serving the right games to the right user is, I would like to see as a technology component. You call it game tech, ad tech, whatever technology component you can call it. But that would be a game changer, is what my 2 cents would be.
Absolutely, Ishit, and that's something we are burning a lot of midnight oil on. I don't think we have got good at it, but we will continue to make more progress, that I'm sure. Sukamal, your thoughts?
All right, I'm going to start, take this opportunity to just, say what a publisher definitely would love to see on Glance, our publisher tools, right? As the name says, we'd like to see tools where we can self-publish, we can, promote things that we believe are essential for our communities, create them, and keep them engaged, right? And also ability to engage deeper with our communities in terms of giveaways, drops, or getting them invitations. So yes, more publishers tools, and that's something which we would love to see on Glance. I know that it's coming. Might be not P0, but it's definitely on the pipeline. But as a publisher, we always want to see them yesterday rather than tomorrow. So that's how I believe we can continue this journey with Glance.
Completely agree. I think that's a very, very powerful topic you made. Give more ways to grow and engage your users. I think that's a theme that we are all sticking on. Okay, that brings us to an end of an exciting conversation.
Thank you.
Really love talking to you all, you guys. I found some very, very interesting insights. I just want to summarize them. Obviously, gaming is entertainment. It is a way of expression of users. It is becoming the new way of social media. I think the message to the brands is, gaming is a place where you can create some unique stories, some highly engaging experiences with a very, very targeted set of users. And don't think about it as, are you a brand relevant to it? If you, as Sukamal would say, Mercedes and Louis Vuitton are now working with Riot Games. So think about that. From a game developer point of view and also a streamer, obviously, apart from being patient and luck, be more authentic, go deeper into the themes. and for some platform like us, help put together very high, rich insights that are relevant for the advertiser, help create much more personalized and targeted experience for the users. And very, very important, this is something we are really breaking our head every day on. How can we drive a lot of engagement and re-engagement for games, not just user acquisition? Once again, thanks everyone. And thanks for also all the audience who are there for this first session. Over to Devika Sharma, our Director of APAC ONO, who's going to be our moderator for our next session. So stay tuned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Today, we are going to talk about mobile gaming advertising and, the kind of opportunity that it presents, especially in India as a market, which is an ocean, which is just expanding in today's scenario. So we have really experienced veterans with us today. We have Shubha, who joins us as the head of media and digital from Godrej Consumer Products Limited. We have Vineet Karnik, who is the head of sports, esports and entertainment for Group M South Asia. And we have Sneha with us, who is the director of brand marketing and social for Swiggy. So before we actually get into the session, I'll just request the panelists to introduce themselves briefly.
Hi, my name is Shubha. Very happy to be here with all of you. I basically take care of the media planning, the media buying, negotiation, strategy, and digital marketing at Godrej Consumer Products. I'm based in Mumbai, and I think that's about it.
Hi, my name is Vineet Karnik. Extremely happy to be here. And hi, Devika, good to see you after a long time. I essentially have spent the last 2 decades working very closely with the entertainment and sports business here at Group M. And most people would know us and me personally as the entertainment and sports evangelists and specialists from an advertising and marketing perspective. Now, I think one thing I would want to do from an ambition perspective is that it would be great if people know us in the next decade as one of the evangelists of gaming and esports as a business. And that's the excitement in which I would love to talk to you guys today. And that's a very short one from me, and also basically segues into the next 10 years. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Very happy to be here. My name is Sneha. I am currently Director Brand Marketing and Social Media for the food delivery business at Swiggy. I don't know if veteran really describes me. I would think I'm a baby when it comes to brand marketing, definitely in gaming, because we're still like trying to paddle and figure our way out, because it is a wide space, and like we're constantly experimenting and trying to figure out ways in which we can make it work for our consumer as well as our brand. So once again, really happy to be here. Really interested to hear from Vineet and Shubha.
Thank you, everyone, for those introductions. So the reason, I'll quickly outline what brings us together today. And I think we all are aware of the sheer size of the opportunity that exists with mobile game advertising, right? India is the 5th largest gaming market in the world. If you just look at the number of downloads, the game app downloads that happened last year, we're second only to China at a number of 9.33 billion. And what's really interesting is that what was perceived to be a very youth and urban phenomena is actually actually a platform that addresses very, very diverse audiences across different geographies, across different, formats of towns, across different age groups, and of course, across different genders, right? So that gives us an opportunity to sort of go deeper into how we actually talk to these audiences who engage with games, a very diverse set of games on a fairly regular basis, and how can marketers leverage this phenomena to have more meaningful conversations with their audiences using mobile gaming as a platform. So with that context, I'd actually, like to put the first question to you. You have been a long-standing champion and advocate of gaming and of sports, and the kind of impact that it's had on consumers, and therefore the potential that exists for brands to leverage this impact. How have you seen this space evolve over the last decade or so?
Sure, Devika, thanks a lot for that. So to answer this question, I think it's very important to understand three devices, okay? So the first device is our popular television. Second device is the desktop. And the third device obviously is the mobile phone, yeah? So we have seen a sea change in terms of the way these three devices have evolved themselves over the last decade or so, right? So while television was all about appointment viewing, or in terms of the programming, in terms of live sports, it was predominantly about one size fits all in the analog era, right? Which obviously changed a lot with the digitization, with the OTT platforms and stuff like that. From a gaming perspective, okay, from a gaming and India perspective, it is very important to understand the journey between desktops and mobile phones, because it's a no-brainer. We all know that desktops being one of the most expensive, propositions from the point of view of Bharat, and not so much from India. Mobile phones actually has increasingly become cheaper. Data has been democratized big time post the launch of Geo and stuff like that. So today, without a doubt, between television, desktops and mobiles obviously rules the roost, okay, and has phenomenal amount of penetration and usage, I would say, and that actually brings the gaming part of it into a very, very different journey from an India point of view. So what do people do predominantly on mobile phones? There are three things people do on mobile phones. One is they binge watch and live stream. Second is they consume a lot of vernacular content through mobile phones. And third and most important thing and topic of today is they play games on their mobile phone. So binge watch plus live stream, vernacular content, and gaming. So these are three most important aspects of Indian consumers doing things on a mobile phone. Now that itself can give you a perspective on the numbers that Devika spoke in her prelude in terms of the scale at which we are looking at India as a market. Yeah, couple of things again, data centric. What we need to know is India's smartphone penetration is pegged to about 35%, okay, of the total mobile phone penetration. That itself is very, very high. We are looking at a 12 to 15 YOI growth in mobile gaming advertising itself, which means very clearly from a industry perspective, there are three type of things, right? One is real money gaming, which for the sake of this discussion, we are not going to be discussing. Second is competitive games, and third is casual games. Significant amount of interest obviously is in the area of competitive games. But what COVID has literally taught us and actually helped us catapult is the casual gaming industry. Today, if you look at numbers, there are men and women who are equally playing casual games, which was not the case pre-COVID. Okay, pre-COVID, gaming and esports was predominantly a male-centric industry, with COVID coming into play and with lockdowns and all of that, that habits have changed, and most importantly, continued post-COVID as well. Now, that's a very, very important data point, which will reflect the kind of scale and the kind of headroom India has from a gaming perspective to grow. I think from that perspective, I think that's a good segue, Devika, for you to progress in this conversation in terms of how do we see it as an opportunity from a advertising and a marketing perspective. The numbers are there. It's a no-brainer. Advertisers should look at it from a perspective of experimenting it quite often, because there are multiple platforms. Keep trying multiple platforms. You never know which one works, because obviously, while there are numbers, there is also fragmentation to this industry. How do you beat the fragmentation? You beat fragmentation by sheer trial and error basis. Some things will work, some things will not work. Take baby steps, things which work, scale that up, and I'm sure you will find your consumers there.
Thank you for that, Vineet. And if I can sort of reflect on some of what you said, what's become really interesting is that gaming, mobile gaming, is no longer just about gaming, right? Mobile gaming is actually just one part of it. And what is burgeoning is live game streams and esports and consuming content, right? So it's actually a separate content category. And I say that with a fair amount of confidence, because it is, on glance itself, we attract about 25 to 30 million users who just sit and watch game streams. And the kind of engagement rates we see on that are significantly higher than other content categories. So it's very interesting to see how we can possibly evaluate opportunities to leverage that scale and that engagement, as you mentioned, which actually, like you said, Vinny, segues very nicely into my next question, which is for you, Sneha. You, as an advertiser, you have worked across multiple media formats. What is your point of view on using and leveraging mobile game inventories as a marketing channel? What is the impact that you can see this channel creating, and how would an advertiser look at sort of leveraging and optimizing opportunities here?
Sure. So specifically at Swiggy, and we've been experimenting probably over the last year with gaming across some of these platforms and some of these ways in which you've mentioned. I think before a brand marketer decides to take the plunge on whether or not gaming is the space that we need to be, I think there are essentially, like we would evaluate any media or brand plan, right? There are just two things that we need to look at. One is obviously the media strategy, and second is the creative strategy. So the first thing, if we specifically have to talk about media strategy, I think with gaming, at least this happened to me personally, it is easy to paint mobile gaming with one brush, and like Vineet mentioned, it's not one size fits all. You can very well target maybe a 45-year-old homemaker as well as like a 15-year-old student. And if you don't prepare for that, like number one, if you don't identify who is the right TG that you want to speak to, and two, if you don't prepare creatively for that, it will throw your proposition, it will throw your media plan, everything out of whack. So I think that to me is definitely one strong learning that I think is very important. So I think for a brand, it's very important to understand who is it that I want to speak to, and is gaming the right way in which that I should speak to them, right? So if I have to talk about Swiggy in specific, I think we're very, very clear. The TG that we want to go after is the Gen Z TG, the sub 21 is who we want to cater to. So the kind of buys that we make will be dependent on this, right? And the second, that essentially brings me to the creative strategy. So especially again, like I do have experience in crafting some amount of communication for this Gen Z TG in gaming. I think it is like there's again like a wide plethora of placements that you have available. You can talk about like in-game integrations, you can talk about regular native or in like display advertising. You can actually talk about integrating yourself into what follows after the game, which is on live streams, etc., etc. So I think there's definitely a lot of stuff available. Again, I don't have like a silver bullet answer to say this works and this doesn't. We're still experimenting and finding out. But I think again, what we've learned is how you craft your communication very contextual, and like even with our glance experiment where we piloted something for live streams, I think contextuality is very important. And again, this is specifically, I'm talking about the Gen Z TG who we've built communication for. Interactivity, engagement is again very important. I think we need to think about ways in which we're non-intrusive. Like I have a 7-year-old who plays games and who gets really annoyed with ads. So I think we need to think about how we are beyond ads and like building an experience where we also have a relationship built with the consumer and they enjoy interacting with ads, right? I think it is definitely a tough job. It's not again like a one size fits all answer, but I think these two things are some brand marketer needs to really understand gaming advertising. It's like the numbers are clearly there. I don't have to re-emphasize why we need to advertise. Yeah.
Okay, so Shubha, that brings me to you. We've discussed this at an organization level with Godrej multiple times, but we've seen mobile gaming spends from advertisers explode after the pandemic, right? And I think more and more advertisers are starting to see the scale of the opportunity and also the power of the opportunity that exists for brands in this space. What are some of the trends you have seen in terms of brands adopting mobile game advertising, and how should they look at this channel as becoming a core part of their strategy?
Okay, thank you for the question, Devika. Yes, I mean, like you said, that, if I look back at, say, a few years back, there was a very different perception when it came to choosing, gaming as a viable advertising option. I'll actually focus on one part of, this whole dilemma of making a choice. Everybody, I think, essentially has to answer the why part of, why do we really need to look at gaming as an option? Now, if I go back to the very basic of targeting as an advertiser, the first task for us is to find audiences who are relevant. And the second is to find large clusters of audiences who matter. Now, if I look at gaming the way it is today, you not only get large numbers, but you also get a very wide spectrum of audiences. Like, say, if you compare it to a couple of years or say even a decade back, it was emerging numbers, but it was largely male. Now, today, post pandemic, if you see the kind of audiences that we see, cuts across age groups, cuts across gender, cuts across pop strata, and that to me is a very, very valid reason of why it becomes therefore a huge part of the choices that we make when it comes in terms of segmentation. The other area which I also see is that, in terms of the objective and the purpose of a brand, one really needs to see in terms of where we are headed. Now, if you look at across mass media options, there is a huge amount of rise in clutter, there is a huge amount of multiple options within each medium that is available. Now, what is it that our challenges as marketers or advertisers, that the more segments I identify where I'm able to sort of manage a considerable level of voice in terms of presence for the brand, the more I break clutter. So as audiences segment more and more and more, and as options emerge in larger numbers today than ever before, I think in a way it is also, as advertisers, we are all constantly, chasing and finding those niches which are not only viable but also give us great numbers. So it's more of a, do you have that beginner's advantage kind of a thing, Devika? Because A, find an option which is viable. B, also try and occupy, segments which are relatively sort of clutter free. And in terms of trend, to answer the first part of your question, honestly, one big trend that I see and which makes advertisers smile, brands smile, is the fact that your time spent, which is a good measure and a very healthy indicator of engagement. In gaming, it has steadily been rising, and what we thought was a pandemic phenomenon is no longer a pandemic phenomenon. It's a concrete habit. And in media, the moment you have a habit, it's a fertile ground for advertisers to just march on and go and grab whatever relevant slots are available. So
Shubha, thank you for that.
I'll add one point. I'll just add one point. In fact, Shubham made multiple interesting points. I think to me, what's a clincher is that one uniqueness about this space is that, see, we spoke about competitive gamers and casual gamers, right? The competitive gamers, if that is the target audience and if you want to reach them, they are hardly available through traditional media routes, right? Because they are so much into gaming and so much into sport, okay, that this is the only way to target them, perhaps, right? And now, if you compare this with live sport, this is so much more efficient targeting compared to live, because live sport predominantly is cricket in India, which is extremely expensive, right? So this becomes a very, very efficient way of engaging those guys as well. Now let's talk about the other side, which is casual gamers. Now, casual gamers are a lot which is predominantly was not there in this segment, okay, predominantly women, okay, because very clearly the data is showing us serious amount of women do engage in casual gaming. Now, this again becomes a very, very efficient and targeted way to reach them compared to traditional ways of reach, okay, which perhaps could be very, very, very fragmented today. Yeah. So these are very, very interesting trends and observations that we are seeing over the last 3 to 4 years predominantly.
Absolutely. And that's such an interesting comparison, Vineet, and thank you for that. It creates such, fantastic and stark context. But Shubha, if I can just respond to what you said, I loved how you put your point of view across, because, there is so much mystery around gaming, and your parameters of evaluating it as a channel are so basic and simple, right? And it would pretty much apply to any media vehicle you were opting to evaluate for spends. And I think that's why the points that you put forth are so succinct in highlighting how an advertiser can look at mobile game advertising. Vineet, your point was also supremely interesting, right? Because it sort of benchmarks mobile game advertising and the diverse audiences that it sort of addresses with equally diverse audiences that are watching sports and live sports, right? So with that in mind, what would you say to advertisers who have not sort of, ventured into this space yet, and let's say just want to dip their toes in this ocean of opportunity that's frankly just growing?
Okay, it's quite simple, right? I can answer this in one line, honestly, if you ask me. So see, today, India, from a mobile gaming market perspective, is ranked 6th in the world on the basis of market numbers in 2020, 2021, right? Now, that itself is a massive data point to not consider, right? Because as I said, okay, the numbers are huge. And in fact, in one of the forums like these, I actually made a very provocative statement by saying that, guess what, while cricket is the biggest sport in the country, guess what, which is the second? So most people would say football, badminton, kabaddi, or whatever. But from a numbers perspective, it's the gaming part of it, because if after cricket anything which has massive audiences, it is in this category. The only difference is it's fragmented to a very different level. Now, how do you make sense of that fragmentation? What works for you, what doesn't work for you, is sheer experimentation. Yeah, because obviously the whole universe of gaming has realized that potential in India. But if I have to call out one thing which I would like to see in India, happen more often than any is that our publisher should create own games, and our gaming industry from a creative standpoint has to scale up to a level where we eventually give a PUBG to the world. Because what typically happens is most of the things that are happening in the environment are not in our control, right? And today, that's the challenge that we are facing from the competitive gaming point of view. Our publishers need to possibly look at creating games of Indian origin interest, which possibly will create and control that whole industry within the country. Otherwise, we will keep getting games from outside, and any geographical issues that eventually happen. Today, look at it. I mean, the 4 or 5 biggest games are banned in India, right? Now, that's a challenge none of us can solve, right? Therefore, high time we need to create our own games, because India from an audience perspective is ready. India from a skill perspective is ready. India from an engagement perspective is ready. Now, what the journey that we need to possibly travel is to create games which are going to be a super hit within our scheme of things. That's the ultimate proof of concept if this has to go to the next level.
Interesting points, Vineet. I think what you're saying about how brands can experiment is really interesting. Also about how we can localize content to drive relevance for our audiences. And that actually, Sneha, as an advertiser, Swiggy's been very agile. Swiggy's experimented a lot, and specifically with mobile game advertising as well. So as a client, what are your thoughts on how you could leverage experiments such that we are able to use opportunities in mobile game advertising and create brand-led experiences for consumers?
Sure. So I think let me answer the second part of your question first, which is about the importance of brand-led experiences to consumers, right? I think we live in a day and age where your attention span is 8 seconds. So if you're trying to push forward a brand communication of, hey, we are this brand and this is what we have to offer, most likely your user is not interested, right? But we also live in the day and age of like AI systems like DALL-E, who can create artworks for you, like complex artworks for you in a minute of seconds. And you also see users really engaging and using their imagination to like push it to the next level. So if you check out Open DALL-E on Instagram, you'll see the extent of how much people are willing to use their imagination if you just give them the chance, right? So for me, this was actually one learning from our recent social campaign that we did, which is called Why Is This a Swiggy Ad, where we gamified the entire brand communication experience, where we asked users, you tell us why this is a Swiggy ad, instead of me pushing communication down your throat, right? So, and the sheer effort that users have actually put into conspiracy theories, putting that into video. So like essentially it just tells us that if you give them like the right reason to engage, they will come and engage with you. So I think that's really what this gaming ecosystem opens up to us. I think it is a great space where you can actually build brand-led experiences and engage quite nicely and closely with consumers. And I do feel like there's, again, like we barely scratched the surface. I think there's a lot more that we can do, again, like with I don't think India is anywhere close to metaverse really taking off because of the consoles and all of the paraphernalia that it requires. So there's definitely a lot of space for us to build a lot more, but I do feel like trying to identify ways in which you can build brand-led experiences are very, very important. Now to talk to you specifically about what we at Swiggy have done, we've again like I said, we've barely scratched the surface. We've done some levels of standard advertising like native or like display advertising along with glance as well. Is some of the experiments that we've done. We've done actually some experiments on live streams through TV as well as through YouTube. And we've actually also gamified it to a certain extent, where when you're in the gaming system or when you're consuming gaming content, you're probably also more likely to participate in a game and engage with the brand. And that's also seen, like we actually have numbers where we were able to bring people from a TV live stream to a TV broadcast to our app, right? So I think, again, like mobile advertising, you have like one less platform in the mix, so it's a lot easier, especially for digital brands like ourselves, to drive traffic directly to our app. And we've also seen actually increased retention of these users, like who've come through these games as opposed to others. So these are some of the experiments, like a lot more to go. Some of the experiments that we've done that have worked fairly well for us.
Thank you for sharing that. It's so interesting because, I mean, as a marketer, I have very firmly believed in being able to bring the brand alive, to let the brand have a personality and a conversation with its audience. And I think that's something that all of us as consumers are looking for, right? And it's interesting to see how you're using mobile game advertising to create opportunities on that. One of the myths, in fact, around mobile game advertising is how you can actually leverage the platform, right? In terms of connecting with consumers. So Shubha, my next question is for you, which is what are some of the myths that you have faced as a marketer, and misconceptions around mobile game advertising? And if you'd be willing to, we'd love to hear from you about a campaign which actually battles some of these myths.
Okay, so Devika, to answer this, I'll actually give you a little bit of historical, and experience that I faced when it comes to gaming. And I'm really talking of when people used to actually do gaming on desktops. Okay, now here is the thing, that if it is relevant for your audience, you can build a connect anywhere. Okay, provided the right numbers are there, it's a feasible option. It's an efficient option. Now, I'll actually talk about this whole Alive is Awesome campaign on Synthol when we had launched. And I'm talking of not now, because today you have these massive smartphone numbers. Today we are talking of a whole lot of population, a huge ratio of population that's playing games. No, I'm not talking of this. And I'll again come back to 2022. But before that, I want to talk about Synthol and Alive is Awesome. And when we launched this campaign, and we really thought that gaming and the communication for the brand have great amount of resonance. And I recollect it was, I think, contest to win, play to win. And with them, we had actually built an entire engaging gaming and rewarding kind of a, plan, complete marketing plan, communication plan. And it was a very, very hugely, successful engagement that we ended up creating. And this is at a time where the number of mobile phones in the country were, I don't know what numbers, very low, but I'm talking of 2012. So all of you can sort of imagine, correct? That was a great success in terms of the kind of engagement that one could, as a marketer, create with relevant audiences. Now, I am talking of 5 years back. You would then talk to people and they would say, oh, data, connectivity. And I mean, these are the market truths, right? Because affordability of data 5 years back and the number of phones at that point was still pretty low as compared to where we are today. Now, when we talk of today, data is highly affordable, but the pandemic has also set into motion the kind of habit, which is, the average time spent by multiple audience segments is pretty high in terms of your ability to create a conversation and engagement with those audiences. Now, very recent example that I can talk about is for Hit Racket. We have a product called Hit Racket, and for Hit Racket, for all those audiences, gaming audiences who were exposed to our basic communication, we created a small game where the user had to simply use a racket which appears on your screen to swat mosquitoes, okay, kill mosquitoes. And two takeaways that I would really talk about here is that it's a gaming audience, and we could create a game and a mini engagement kind of a scenario where we could really highlight what the product was all about. At the same time, it's also about creating something interesting and engaging where somebody actively participates. And these are the people who already been exposed to my communication. Now, look at it from a gaming audience perspective. This is a fairly interesting proposition, and they are pretty connected, and they are doing something active which is linked to the ambience in which they are currently in. Correct? So one is about the ambience, the relevance, and whether it's interesting, because you don't want to really throw something at them and leave it, and you know that most likely they're not going to be so intrigued or engaged. On the advertiser side, for us, it also gave the most important and relevant question that every marketer asks, right? It is about what was the kind of engagement you could create. And perhaps if we found the engagement low, we had the real live option of altering the game or introducing something else as an interesting element, which could further test, help us test that model and improve engagement rates. So this myth about, the big myth, now I'll talk about that myth, that, usually people do one general paint stroke and say that, oh, but maybe not for me, not relevant for me. Now here I'm talking of two different categories. One is as general and as common as a highly penetrated category like soaps. And I have a very different unique proposition, which is Alive is Awesome. And we created multiple worlds within Contest to Win, and we created engagement. And here I'm talking of something which is a little more niche, which is a hit racket. And there also, my point is that it's all about how interesting your communication can be. I mean, it depends on creatively how beautifully you can integrate the kind of communication peg you want to create with your audience, and how well you can deploy. But it doesn't stop there. It's also about monitoring that kind of engagement you want to create, because you're not doing it for the sake of generally making it interesting or to just talk about it, right? End of the day, it needs to drive back the kind of engagement and actionability. So these are two things that I can really, think about. And of course, it's realistic also to assume that not every brand and every communication is therefore amenable to creating engagement pegs. But of course, the audience is there, and as long as you can make it interesting, it works.
Thank you. It's really interesting to hear that. And so thank you for sharing this with especially the two campaigns you spoke about so candidly, because I think one of the most common myths that we see floating around is how mobile game advertising campaigns cannot deliver on classical media metrics and ROI. And it's really interesting to see that you are not only looking at innovation that is leveraging audience interests and therefore driving engagement, but you're also dialing it back into your core media goals, which is really, really wonderful to see. I have a follow-up, Shobha, because you spoke about two campaigns. Did this entire proposition become really expensive for you? Or were you able
No. So I see, the interesting part is, Devika, I'm actually talking of two different eras, okay? One where people actually played games on a desktop, and it was really a struggle to even create those kind of graphics which would pass our basic, test in terms of quality, right? I'm talking of that era, and I'm talking of 2022, where creating solutions is pretty simple, quick, fast. But at the same time, and in both these instances, we were very clear about the efficiency, because we are essentially all about efficiency when it comes to results. Solutions have to make business sense. Like I said earlier, it doesn't make sense to do something because you want to talk about it, or you want to. Experimentation is good, but when we scale up, we have the efficiency lens very much at the center of everything that we do. And no, it was not. It made a lot of sense in terms of ROI and efficiency. So hope that answers your question.
It does, and also addresses a myth about mobile game advertising being expensive. So with that, one question for all of you: any parting thoughts that you would like to share with the people who are listening in?
So parting thought is simple: stay invested, stay connected with the gaming industry. As I said earlier, from a numbers perspective, the kind of numbers this industry has is only second to cricket. So you can imagine the potential and the headroom from a growth perspective. If multiple things fall in place, if we tick all the right boxes, I think I don't have a doubt that this is here to stay. And as I said in my opening remark, that I would like to be remembered for the next 10 years from a gaming perspective, because first 10 was entertainment, second 10 was live sport, the third 10 could be gaming and esport, would be my parting wish, I would say.
Vineet, if mobile game advertising was a person, I don't think they could have received higher praise from you, being compared to cricket and being second only to that, if at all. So thank you for sharing that. Sneha, Shubha, anything you'd like to add?
So one thing that I would leave is that, see, the beauty of media planning or being a marketer in India is that we get to plan solutions and implement and execute solutions for such large number of people and such a diverse set of audiences. To me, it's a marketer's paradise, and it's also a marketer's nightmare. But for me, I see it as a paradise, and as a media specialist, I see that as just an opportunity, a canvas that's just growing in richness and multiple options. So for me, it's a very exciting space to be in. And from an purely advertiser perspective, I would say that, as long as you can craft a relevant and efficient solution, I think gaming is here as part of a mix, which is a very serious percentage in terms of the overall mix. So
yeah, so the only point from me, I think, like a mix of what Vineet and Shubha have said. I think there are times when it feels like a paradise and times when it feels like a prison, because there's because it is a paradise, because I think the advantage is like it's a playing field left for you, right? I think there's a lot for us to experiment and learn, and that is what I keep telling the team as well. I think the advantage is that it is new, so we should definitely experiment, and that is the one thing that I would leave for marketers as well. It is definitely a new, at least specifically for India, it is a new and upcoming field. I do feel like it requires a lot of experimentation, both from media planning as well as from like creative strategy standpoint. But I'm sure if we keep at it, we'll get to the paradise soon.
Thank you so much to all three of you. I think your final remarks have removed the necessity for me to sum up, but I think it's been a fantastic discussion because we've been able to talk about a fairly complex space, which is, while burgeoning, also really challenging for a lot of advertisers. And I think a lot of what you spoke about demystifies it, whether in terms of experimentation or understanding consumer mindset, how you can look at media and creative strategies to sort of formulate a plan, and how the basics of standard media planning will actually help advertisers leverage the scale and the depth of this opportunity. So again, as always, it was lovely and a pleasure to speak to all of you. And thank you once again.
Thanks, Devika. Thank you.
Thanks, Devika.
Thank you, Devika.
That brings us to the end of day one. We hope you all thoroughly enjoyed the sessions. In case you have any questions for us which haven't been answered yet, don't forget to reach out to us at mobilemarketing@inmobi.com, or also feel free to reach out to us on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to take the conversations ahead. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you have a great rest of the day.